The Trump administration's push to cut federal funding will cause some problems for nonprofits here in our state. Today, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto sat down with leaders of local nonprofits.
According to the Urban Institute, Nevada's nonprofits get about $1.3 billion in federal grants. In the first days of Trump's presidency, he issued a freeze on funding for federal financial assistance programs back in January. Now, the next day, more than 350 nonprofit leaders from all across the state met on a call to share concerns. 160 nonprofits responded to a survey from United Way. They represent $214 million in funding and 46,000 jobs. Nonprofit leaders here in the state worry that the budget cuts could cause staffing issues and hurt the ability to provide services.
If there are cuts to Medicaid, for example, that means people with cancer, seniors, people with disabilities will be affected. Seniors in nursing home, we rely on Medicaid. It is a lifeline. If that goes away, our community will be devastated.
The pause to federal funding programs has since rescinded. However, nonprofit leaders believe the upcoming budget cuts will still have a negative impact on the communities they serve.